What's the future of workplace mental health? In this next episode of the Flourishing Workplace Podcast, we're going to be talking to Daryl MacAvena, who has built a very healthy culture of workplace mental health. And so in our past episodes, we've talked about what he has done, but now we're going to dive into where he sees this whole thing going. Let's dive into this podcast together. You're listening to the Flourishing Workplace Podcast, a movement to reimagine work brought to you by thought leaders and industry professionals. Discover how to create cultures where people belong, grow, and contribute fully. At Flourishing Workplace, we're changing the world by changing the workplace. Hey everybody, welcome back to our next episode of the Flourishing Workplace Podcast, where our mission is changing the world by changing the workplace. And at Flourishing Workplace, we genuinely believe that when our workplaces thrive, that the ripple effect of that will impact our families, our communities, the people that we love, and honestly make the world a better place. And so welcome back to Daryl MacAvena. It's so great to have you, Daryl.
Thanks.
And if you missed any of our previous episodes with Daryl, please do tune in. He's the president of Performance Freight Management and actually has implemented all kinds of practices around better workplace mental health. And so you're going to want to tap into those episodes and really unpack that so that you can take the learnings and apply them to your own team. So welcome back, Daryl.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so Daryl, one quick question for you around this idea of workplace mental health. We've talked so far about the things that you've done and some of the things that you're doing. Where do you see it going? And I know that's hard to sort of, take out the crystal ball, but when you think about your own journey as a human, just as a person, and then as a business leader, and then for your team, what do you think some of the next things could be coming down the horizon that we could do as business leaders to help our team with mental fitness?
I think the biggest thing right now is just allowing more permission within your organization and allowing that to share. It's kind of like your cell phone GPS. You've got that little blue ring around, the dot. It's telling you where you're going.
Right.
If you can start moving that dot with your customers and your vendors, talking about mental health. I've had customers come up to me and hug me because they know I'm a hugger.
Wow.
Just because I'm open about my mental health. If we can share that ring with our team and start allowing them to feel comfortable about, just being open and have the permission to be, comfortable with what they talk about, I think that's what, going forward is going to be very important for not only our organization, but just people in general, because we don't have a lot of time to spend on mental health. That's always the biggest thing. So really, we got to have more time.
I love that. And it's interesting because when I think about what you just said around giving time and space for that, it's really interesting to me somehow that we deprioritize our own health and then we prioritize the health of others, right? Anyone who's a leader, a parent, particularly when we're caring for other people. And so how can we help our teammates to remember to prioritize their mental health?
Yeah, I think if you've got the ability to share testimonies, again, we mentioned that in one episode, and I think if you can be open about your challenges and mentally what you're dealing with and try and walk them through that in a testimony of such, whether you're, if you feel you're at a 10 and that 10 means like I'm angry and I'm not doing well, share that with your team.
Yeah.
Be open that I'm not feeling good right now,
Yeah.
or at least one member of your team. And I do that quite a bit where I'll call and say, hey, I'm probably going to throw up on you mentally right now, but I need you to listen because I just need somebody to talk to, whether, because you can't always have that time and it's usually built up. So make the time. And I think that's the thing right now is if the testimony is shared and you can open it up in some sort of storyline, I think it's easier and then they'll feel more comfortable talking.
Yeah. You raised something that's so profound, Daryl, because I remember we were working with an organization just about a year ago, and a lady in the team, because we were doing a series of group sessions and then one-on-one, and she said, every time my boss comes in and says, hey, we need to pay attention to our mental health, the problem I'm having, she said, is that he doesn't model that. And I think you hit the nail on the head. John Maxwell says that a leader knows the way and then they show the way. So anybody can read off the company sort of policy statement that we value people's mental health. But as a leader, if I don't have the courage to be vulnerable, and I don't think that means I've got to go dump and open up all my life secrets to my team, but I've got to be able to model that somewhat. And if I can't model it, it's going to be tough for my team to feel the permission to do that. So what was the breakthrough for you? Because there must have been a shift for you psychologically to move from, I can't really share, what will people think of me, to, hey, I'm going to open up this door just a little bit. What was that shift?
Yeah, I think once I felt I was in a lot of different small groups where you had to be vulnerable, so I engaged in some small groups where you had to be vulnerable. So that was a breakthrough for me where I've started, it's like public speaking. Right. It's the hardest thing anyone's ever going to do.
Right.
Well, small groups, that's the hardest thing you're ever going to do. If you have to actually open up about your feelings, that was a breakthrough for me to see not only what I was opening up, but once I opened up, I started to see others. It was like a chain effect. They started talking. Yeah. So that's with my team. I'm getting them calling me with emotions. Right. That's so valuable. Yeah. And I think that's the breakthrough for me, is that even if it's just one, you don't have to share everything, or you don't have to go on for an hour, but if you can just give them a little piece of something that you're either thinking about, it's painful for you, or you're just challenged with. Sometimes it's vendors or carriers or trucking companies that I have to deal with, and I'm like, I'm not feeling good about this. Yeah. Share it. Yeah. Instead of just leaving it inside.
No, I love that. And I just if I can say to leaders or people listening to this today or watching, I mean, the number one thing you can do to improve relationships on your team and that sense of connection is to be a little bit vulnerable. And like Daryl said, you don't have to tell the whole story. You don't have to, turn it into a crying session. Sometimes that happens, but it's really about you taking that first step. And when you take that first step, everyone else feels the permission to do that. So I really commend you for that. When you think about what's going to be happening in terms of workplace mental health, I saw some research from Harvard, and so it wasn't some irreputable organization, but one of the top academic institutions in the world, that said that the number one reason people are going to generative AI, so ChatGPT and Copilot, is therapy and companionship. In 2024 and 25. That blew my mind, therapy and companionship. So I go to ChatGPT, and I'm no longer saying, what is the square root of pi, or any of the questions we ask, but I'm looking for a friend, and I'm looking for a therapist. When I see that, I don't think about, oh man, that's messed up. I just think, wow, there's a business case for deep connections. There's a business case for creating a flourishing workplace. I know we only have a few minutes left. What would you give to business owners or leaders here, managers, executives, whatever, around, here's a couple of practical things you could do to create that type of relationship within your organization? Not a therapeutic relationship, but at least that sense of safe, healthy community.
Yeah, I think, number one is, I always say, I'm not an expert. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist. Right, so find somebody that is good at that to support you. And, that's what I did. And I went and reached out to an organization that could help me there. And mental health is a grind. It's a hard learning. It's like working out for the first time. You have no balance. You have no control, no coordination. Right. So you have
like riding a bull.
Exactly. So it's you're getting on a bull, and mentally it's challenging. So I think, that would be number one. I think number two is, if you're focusing on trying to create a culture, I think the culture is, like you said, it's all about relationships. Talk to your team, your leaders, about things that they have talked about in the past, whether they're good or bad. Whether they've dealt with a death, whether they've dealt with somebody in their family that's going to school and they're kind of empty nesting. Ask them certain questions. How are they doing on that? How's Trey's school? How are things going there? I know that's a big transition for you. Or I know Sadie's leaving today. It's first time she's going to be leaving, to go to a new job or whatever it might be. Having those little pieces. As a business leader, hard to remember everything. Yeah. So maybe journal it, but at least do your best to kind of keep that tabs on what they're feeling, because I know that's important, whether they're a father or a mother.
Yeah. I love that. So I heard you say, don't try to do it alone. So it's okay to bring in some subject matter experts to support you in the process, like a flourishing workplace or a psychologist. Absolutely. Or whatever you've got. And then I like how you kind of are saying, model it as a leader, and model the care factor. I think people don't realize, maybe some people watching or listening today have never heard of that show Cheers, but there's a line in the intro song, the theme song, that says, everybody wants to go where everybody knows their name. And it's this idea, okay, they remember the details about me. It's my birthday, or I'm just moving my house, or maybe my dog is sick. And I've always actually done exactly what you said, and that's actually write things down. Because then the next time I talk to them, I can be like, hey, how's your dog doing? And they're like, oh man, I can't believe that you remembered this. And I'm getting old, and so writing things down makes a big difference. And so, Daryl, it's been amazing to spend this time with you, genuinely. I can't say enough about you in terms of what you're doing in your organization and the impact you're having on our community here in Southern Alberta, probably way beyond that. So is there any final words you'd like to share to the audience just around this idea of workplace mental health?
Yeah, I think, the ultimate is just, caring for people, right? And have that. I'm a giver.
Yeah.
Remind yourself when you are a giver, though, you still, like you said earlier, you still got to take care of yourself mentally. So modeling, that's really important. But have people around you and surround yourself with people that believe in that, believe in mental health, whether you want to call it mental health fitness or mental health itself. But surround yourself with the people that believe in that, and they'll grow you, they'll elevate you, and guess what? You'll experience things that you've never experienced before. So
It's awesome. Well, hey, we're going to be posting, of course, in some of the text on the screen, how to get a hold of Daryl and reach out to him. And of course, you can always reach out to us as well at Flourishing Workplace. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you.
And thanks to, of course, everybody listening and tuning in today. We'll see you in our next episode. The movement for better workplaces starts with one action, yours. Thank you for listening to the Flourishing Workplace Podcast, and keep thriving. At Flourishing Workplace, we're changing the world by changing the workplace.